to the show,
Yeah.
I like to ease into the introduction and the podcast episode itself, so that it's an organic conversation. I think that's what people like. I think that's why people would be tuning in to what you have to say. The fact that this is raw, unfiltered conversation from someone who has experience. It's not scripted. You're not giving me the right answers. It's just, this is your perspective, what you think about it. And I think that's really important in leadership too.
Yep.
And that's why I don't watch a lot of those leadership videos, because it's super easy to give scripted answers from a life coach. This is exactly how you get through your problem. Or some of it just sounds super tacky. Like, well, you're at the bottom, just think differently about it, and then suddenly you'll be rich. And I think that advice just falls short of the real problem. So we're going to have a real organic
those ideas are
conversation.
great, but they just don't have the foundation of actually how to implement it. I think they fly in a realm of, I will find a way how to implement it when you actually hear the story, how someone else used exactly the same tools to get where they want to go. Because it's easy to tell what you need to do. Even a lot of success people agree that they sometimes don't use their own advice. And so why are you giving that advice if you don't implement by yourself?
Exactly. And if they don't walk it like they talk it, I mean, you can smell, you can smell through that or see through that and understand their intent. And it comes off kind of fake. It comes off more like a sales pitch. Like, hey, I have a course to sell you, as opposed to a real conversation as if it were between two friends.
Yeah, 100%.
Now, I mean, one of the questions I wanted to ask, I think it relates to this.
Yeah.
Because when you're talking about leadership mentality and what comes off as real and what comes off as fake, I think that corporate leadership versus startup leadership is a really good example of real and fake leadership. Because in a more corporate structure, things don't really go wrong as much, and you've got these titles and this hierarchy that kicks into effect. And so leadership is more like, I'm in control, you listen to what I have to say. Whereas startup leadership, that doesn't work. Like, you cannot be an iron fist. You cannot be in charge of people. It requires a different sort of leadership skills and characteristics and a totally different personality type. Is this something that you've noticed having worked in both environments?
100%. I think the biggest key part is that I think that in a corporate life, people forget how to lead. I think that they are afraid sometimes how to lead because they need to manage their work. And I think that work have been done in exactly the same way sometimes for 3-5 years. And I think that a person who comes in and with new ideas, coming in and wants to lead a new way of doing things. And I think that a lot of times managers are afraid to take that leap and try a new thing, because trying a new thing is risk. And I think you're not able to be a leader if you are risk averse. You need to make sure that you take risks, even on small things. And I truly believe that how you do one thing, that's how you do everything. If you're afraid to take risks on small things and operations or anything, that means you'll be afraid to take risks, big risks, on every aspect of business. Because I remember that early on when I started my career in corporate, I was always looking to optimize things, how to find a way, how to do better. I used to come to my manager, a leader, with ideas, and he never said, "Oh no, let's do it as it was last year." And it used to frustrate me because I know that there's more ways to do things. And I think that when you come to a startup, everyone appreciates that, because everyone knows that there's a lot of things to improve. A lot of things do better. And I think that's why I like startup culture, because everyone is looking to take ownership of their situation, of their operations, to make it better, because they want to move to some kind of direction.
What type of personality traits do you think it takes to take ownership and to thrive in that startup culture?
I think that the biggest thing that people need to have that is really take ownership of what you have right now and what you need to improve. Because I think the biggest part of startups is not where you are right now. I think the biggest thing is that being able to transform yourself into who you need to be. And that's why I'm super big in vision setting based on imagination, not on the past. When you're able to say like this, this is a company that I'm building on. This is what that company needs, and what I need to do and who I need to become to fit this culture, to fit this company, to fit this vision. Because I truly believe that we are very moldable. We're able to adjust, we're able to pivot, and when you're able to transform yourself every single time when you pursue new things, I think the most important part about startups is that you need to be very, very adaptable.
So taking ownership of faults, negative characteristics, or things that are incomplete about who you could be, that ideal version of yourself, recognizing that, putting ego aside, and improving, not just for your own gain, but to see the company succeed.
Yeah, and I think that the biggest part is still like understanding yourself. Self-awareness is a key because okay, like there's some areas of your strengths and some areas of your weakness. I love what John C. Maxwell says, that you are weak in your weaknesses, so don't improve it. Like you can become the best case scenario, you can become average in your weakness, but you can be exceptional in your strengths. So being able in a startup, really being able to connect with your team and understand, okay, this is my strength. I didn't develop those yet, but let's focus me working on those things. And when you really have that puzzle of people, and every single piece is different, and we really need every single person needs to really put that puzzle, understand every single person's strengths, focus on develop them, and really finding other team members who focus on making sure that there is no weaknesses that is uncovered.
I think that's the right perspective. I want to play devil's advocate. So some people who would refer to themselves as a jack of all trades, but a master of none, that's sort of like the opposite. Instead of taking your strength and getting really good at it, they're taking multiple skills or aspects of themselves, sometimes the lowest denominator, and trying to lift that up. And I think that does work because it's aggregate gains. A little gain here, I'm a little better there, I'm a little better there. I mean, do you see a place for a jack of all trades in startup culture? Because I feel like that's sort of like what a CEO is, where it's might not be exceptional at one thing. You have to be good at a lot of different things, but maybe not perfect. What do you think?
Yeah, I like that what you said. I think that corporate culture loves niche specializations, and everyone who are very specialized in one thing, you will be admired because you're expert. But in startup culture is not the case, especially at the beginning of the career, and when the team is like 5 people. That means that it might be that you will need to wear so many hats, different hats. And when you grow, you're able to remove some hats. But at the beginning, you need to have that ability to really do multiple things. And I think that we are in the ages where it's much easier to be jack of all trades because the tools are so powerful that you can become so good in multiple things because the tools that you use are so much better than used to be like 10 years ago.
Mm-hmm. That's how I feel with ChatGPT. You know, I can look anything up. I can heavily research it and then just start implementing it. Even if I'm not an expert or I wouldn't be called an expert, I can speak at that level just because the tools are available to me. So you like startup culture. It has less job security, that's for sure.
Yeah.
When did you start realizing that it was more appropriate for your personality type than corporate culture? Was there a moment when the boss walks in angry and you're like, I'm done with this? Or was this a gradual decision that coincided with your personal growth? And what do you think insinuated that?
Yeah, for me, my career started when I was 17. And I said, okay, I will create a 10 years plan. and I said that for the future, and I want to really create a plan and really follow it and really achieve success. And I looked into really, so I need to finish my school. I finish well to get my free education because in my country, if you finish school well, you get free education.
And
And after
that's
that,
Lithuania, correct?
yeah, Lithuania. And then next goal was to work in a huge corporation. And I did that. I finished my school. I finished very, very well. I went to finance to study finance and accounting. And I worked in a massive corporation. And it's interesting with that when I started working and I was working for 3 years, a lot of people saw me as a success because I'm working such a good corporation, great opportunities to improve. But I felt that I'm failing because I was not feeling that I'm making a difference that I wanted to make. And at 25, I made a decision that I'm leaving all that great position, all career opportunities. I left my country. I moved to Canada first time, and I didn't speak English. I studied English, business English in university, but I didn't had any casual English before I came to Canada. And that was the best decision in my life because I realized that my life's supposed to be different than 9 to 5 jobs, regular 9 to 5 jobs. Because when I came to Canada, I connected with so many different people who really have businesses and they live differently. I was like, okay, this is what I want to do. I want really to try new things, challenge myself, improve things, connect with different people, go to seminars, go to conferences. And I found it, okay, like I really want to really go into startups where people think differently.
I think that's learning English and the bilingual requirement. I think that's interesting to me. I mean, do you feel like because as you're describing here, you learned big business English,
Yeah.
because that was a requirement of the corporate lifestyle. Do you feel that if I'm understanding correctly, like learning English in a new way was one of the things that helped you understand what you wanted to become? Like that's almost how it sounded.
Yeah, like it's exactly what happened because when in Lithuania, I was speaking with CEOs of billion-dollar corporations. I had a massive trust from my managers, and I used to speak with CEOs, general managers. And when I came to Canada, I didn't speak English. I just only business English. Mm-hmm. I didn't know what spoon means, what fork, what chopsticks are, anything in between. So because I didn't speak English, I needed to start working in humble jobs. I need to work in warehouse. I need to work in construction just to get by while I'm learning English. And that ability to see life from different perspective, how other people live, what they do, how they survive, really allowed me to be humbled by life. But when I came to Canada, I came with a mindset that I come here with the opportunity to learn, to develop, to understand myself. And that's why I was not afraid to start humbly. And I was working for $11 an hour, $12 an hour, $13 an hour. And I was increasing every single week until I reached 21. And then after I learned my language, I was able to start doing different things. And it allowed me even to improve a lot of different areas. But I think that the biggest part of what I learned in that journey, that the biggest part is knowing that you're able to improve, change, and understand yourself through challenges. And I think that startup is one of the things that really allows to do the same, because you need to go in with an understanding that you will find a way to solve the problem. And as at the beginning could be difficult, but when you have enough adaptability, resilience, I think that you're able to persevere anything.
You think then that from what you've seen, people or companies are more successful if they have a challenging or rocky, difficult beginning? Do you think that I mean, it's nice if everything works out, but do you think that having obstacles and having to overcome adversity is really a precursor and necessary requirement to people or companies becoming successful?
I think that it's really very, very important. I truly believe that adversity is one of the most underused tool to succeed in life, because adversity develops so many things if you choose to. Because again, you can become better or you can become bitter. Like everyone probably heard that saying, but I truly believe that. So like character for a person is like culture to a company. But how the culture is developed in a company, I think is a lot of times culture is developed through challenges, through adversity in a startup. Understanding, okay, like there's things that we need to solve. There's some kind of setbacks in a company. How the team reacts to those setbacks? What kind of culture is set for them? Do they see, okay, this is setback. Now people say like throw their hands at it. Probably that's it. We need to give up. Or people, okay, like let's work harder. Let's find the way to pivot. Let's use this adversity as an opportunity to bring our team together and find a way how to solve that and move forward even better. So I think that adversity is something that allows to really develop that culture, to understand self-awareness of the company, because I think that company as an entity has that culture that is really developed a lot of times through setbacks, through adversity.
Yeah, well, it makes sense. If you take the first principles of it, encounter a problem, want to develop a solution. I mean, that's what a startup is. So
Yeah.
anyone who, whether it's in finance or construction or any of these industries that we're working with, you see problems. Okay, I'm sick of this problem. Someone needs to solve the problem. I'm going to create a company that solves that problem.
Yeah.
You know, I guess facing adversity or roadblocks and then trying to fix it, having that mentality of something goes wrong, let's fix it. I need to fix it. Everything will be better and rewarding if I do. It's built right into startups, you know,
Yeah.
when you think about it.
I like that. Yeah.
And you would describe yourself as having that mentality. Is this something that you've always had, the desire to fix problems as they occur?
I think that I always was in the mindset of making things better. Like I always had like something that's okay. Like maybe I was not the idea person that thinks the idea how to really like come up with the idea. I was not that kind of person, but I was always very creative in making that idea better. This is how my mind works. And I think that that's why I connect with visionaries, because visionaries think about the idea, and I'm able to create that idea, make that idea even better. So I'm not invent things, but I innovate things. Because invention
Yes.
and innovation is so different. So I'm innovation guy, not an invention guy. And that's but startups is for that as well. There's a lot of problems that ideas already was creating, but they're just making those ideas better, more innovative.
Now,
So I always knew that I always want to really work with ideas and make it better.
when you say making an idea better, and it's a vision, it's a concept. What does it mean to make it better? Because I can interpret that two ways. You could have a big idea and you can make it better by making it bigger, more glamorous, more exciting, or you could make it better by making it more realistic and down to earth. Which route do you take?
Yeah, for me, I lost you for a second.
I'm here. I see you. I hear you. You're coming through loud and clear.
Perfect. Perfect. So what it means for me, like making idea better, is that we need to always ask, okay, so what could be done better? So how we make it faster, how we make it maybe much better, cost effective. So it means that there's a lot of things that could be improved about that idea. So that means that the idea is providing some kind of result. How we make that result bigger and with the less effort. Because sometimes you can focus on making it bigger. Sometimes you can make it with less effort, because both of them will bring massive results. Sometimes could make much more revenue, and some could bring really save you a lot of expenses.
Yeah, so this is an interesting little question then, because those are the two types of business models. You're charging a premium for something and you're trying to make it more and more expensive. And that's one way to make something better or a business better. And then there's the inverse, the Walmart or Amazon model, where you're trying to make everything better by making all the processes sharper, more efficient, and cheaper. Or there's people who don't care about that. They'll just increase their margin by charging more. And
Yeah.
Alex Ramosi talks about this. I mean, you could be a race to the bottom. Hey, we're going to do this the cheapest, it's the most economic, or I'm going to charge as much as possible. Which direction do you think is better?
For me, I always believe in high value. So the first part is focusing to make sure that we're able to provide the most productive product or the best productive. Like first you go better before you go bigger. So like I really want to make sure that that product is the best as it could be. So that means I always want to make sure that we're going after really affluent clients first, who understand that the value of the product is much more important than the price of the product. Because for me, I always say that we always need to look into what kind of results I will get with this product, not how much does this product cost me money. I think that the mindset always says, okay, like what that product will provide for me is much more important how much it costs for me. Because if you get the product but that provides $10,000 value, but it costs you 1,000 is better than buying a product at $100 but doesn't provide any value. So
Right.
I think that the cost is irrelevant when there is conversation of the value.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's a good point.
And I think that's the first focus is make sure that we able to be the expensive ones, but really actually that they have a value under that expense.
Is there any software that comes to mind that you're using right now or that you've used in the past that the value proposition was super clear? You were getting a ton out of it, and either you or the company paying for it, maybe it's fintech software or something like that, where it was super obvious.
I think that the first time when I started implementing machine learning techniques with finances and being able to really take a picture of the invoice and it directly goes to accounting system and goes to the right direction, and you're able to use a real time data in finances. I think that was a big thing when I started using for the first time, because I was working in a huge corporation and I used to audit huge corporations. And I still remember when I used to do inventory and I used to check the invoices. I still remember going in a massive warehouse and looking for certain invoices. And I used to spend whole day looking for a couple of invoices in those warehouses. And now, like when you're actually able to put the number of the invoice, and you're able to really get immediately on your screen.
Mm-hmm.
It's insane how much time you're able to save. Right in the past, if you used to put all those invoices in the big, massive warehouses. So I probably am in a good stage to understand how it was in the past when paper invoices was in place, and now when everything is online and the real-time data is available. So that was probably one of the biggest tools that I was using, and I think that was like, even I felt like it's people underpay for this kind of tool because it saves so much time.
Well, I think that's a good testament to the value of our products. And I assume that's some of the value that you see in this new type of real estate data room that's coming about, and not just collecting that data, but verifying it and then putting it to use, either in valuation or in these tokens that are being created in the new financial instruments to be able to have value, people trading value that's directly associated with those accounting statements. And hopefully they're not in a warehouse somewhere in a filing cabinet. They're digitally native. It's on a computer. We can track the source of it. It's in that data room where if I'm an analyst, an auditor, an accountant, I can find this, I can review it, or I can have AI find it. Search for this record, pull it forward, or generate an answer a projection, a calculation based off of months and months of paperwork. That level of efficiency, I mean, the value that we get out of that is exponential. It's incredible.
Yeah, I agree with you 100%. That ability to have access to data, I think that's one of the most beautiful parts about current times. Because when I remember, like, even about getting information in the past, 100 years ago, you need to go to library, you need to get access to information. And that information used to take a while. But now, like, when you think about all the opportunities of the data that you're able to have access immediately on your fingerprints, on your phone, on your laptop, being able to really understand that data and really make decisions based on that data, I think this is such a powerful tool. And I think that maybe people don't appreciate it yet because it's people get used to that. But I think it is very, very powerful tool. And I think that in the future, retail investors will have more and more and more data. And I think that is very powerful that we're working in that, solving that solution, that solving that problem, but people that maybe retail investors doesn't have as much information as institutional investors. But being able to solve that and really making sure that every single person who wants to invest has all the information necessary to make right decisions, I think that's just very, very powerful.
I think it's still important at the institutional level because the stakes are higher. And so going into private market with alternative assets and being able to very quickly assess whether a real estate property meets your risk, threshold and criteria, and almost generating ratings for these properties based off of their data, the quality of the data, the amount of data, and just the asset itself. That's going to move a lot of capital and borderless capital too.
Yeah.
It'll remove language barriers. DeFi will help with overseas payments. And then, building wants to strive towards a certification where if a property has been onboarded and we have all of their data and documents, we can automatically say this building is compliant. They've got all the permits and licensing necessary. Their financial reporting looks good. They're looking at predictive maintenance because they have a nice digital twin and they modeled this and built it exactly as planned. I think, that access to information and to use it, that transparency and that new form of trust, actually, and not even trust that you're giving me the right information, it's truth. This is exactly what the document is. Here's all the data sources. Here's how it's real time, from the asset itself. Instead of having people report on the asset, the property can be equipped to report itself. And that's how you know it's truth at that point, especially with the blockchain element.
Yeah, I love that. Because institutions, they had to do their own due diligence as well on all properties. And you have a massive team to do so. Now, that means that institutions will have one tool to really do all due diligence for them. So institutions will have a massive, massive value of this kind of information as well, because the time that you need to spend on making decisions will be reduced significantly. So rather than waiting for a week or 2 weeks until the due diligence will be finished on that property, on that deal, now we have all information right away in front of you. So you have a meeting, a gathering of the stakeholders, and you're able to make decisions very, very fast. So that information improve the speed of decision making very, very significantly.
Yeah, on different levels too. The speed at which you can make a decision, and then the speed at which you can execute that decision. In a time of digital ownership, potential liquidity, and this is going to totally change capital markets. Not just having access to information, but then applying it and building portfolios off of this, moving capital, creating derivatives or trading. If you think about price action, the reason why we have futures markets and options markets is because we see in real time every second, an underlying stock is changing in value. And then people are speculating on the change of value every single second. It's going to be a huge, wild market that opens up in real estate once people really figure out how to digitize it and how to create new financial assets and instruments and products and get them out there.
Yeah, I like what you said, because the biggest part is that real estate used to be something that works only certain time of the day. Because you're not able to make deals in the middle of the night. So when you really digitize information, you're able to start making deals even in the night when there is a buyer and seller. It doesn't matter at what time they're able to make that transaction. And that means that open up, as that the speed of deals could become so much faster. And if you want liquidity, that will be liquidity, because there's a lot of people who are looking to buy and other people who are looking to sell. And it doesn't matter what time of the day it is. And no matter where are located, they're able to make that purchase. And I think that it opens the doors to globality of the real estate.
Yeah, that's a good point. I think there's two sides to this coin, because when you condense market hours, then buyers and sellers only have a limited amount of time and they meet in the middle. If you have 24-hour, 24/7 trading, you might have a buyer in the morning and then your seller appears in the evening, and they miss each other. And so you don't, unless you have an order that automatically executes, like, hey, sell my stake of this property to the next person who shows up whenever that happens, then that sort of works. But at the same time, yeah, it could mean that I want to sell in the evening, and there's people who are 12 hours ahead of me on the other side of the world who are ready to do that. So I think 24-hour, 24/7 markets mixed with globalization and digitization, that's where you really start to see the power of those techs or innovations.
Because of course, some people are willing to sell or buy on a certain price, and when the buyer and seller is agreeing on the prices, one person is putting the deal on the market, and another person is just agreeing or not agreeing and just buying it. And it's much simpler, because you can leave in for even for weeks selling. Like you put both that you're selling your token for a certain price, and you can leave it for a couple of months, and after a couple of months, a person finally wants to purchase that token, and it will buy it. So that means that you're able to leave that selling for a long time until market reaches a certain level of the price.
Right. And that process in which buyers and sellers are determining whether to proceed, I call that price discovery. I think probably you'd say the same. Like, I think this is worth this amount, and so yes, I'm going to purchase this.
And this is again that really helps what you said as well.
Right. That's exactly where I was going to segue. I mean, do you want to touch on just a little bit the relationship you see between data, price discovery, liquidity?
Like I think that data is so powerful. I think that in the future, not just data will be important, but really how to understand that data, because of course that you can potentially have like seeds of like some kind of plant, but if you don't know how to really use those seeds and plant in the ground and how to grow it, of course it will not provide any benefits. So exactly the same with data. I think that there will be more importance on really educating people what is important about that data, what you're supposed to be looking for in that data. Because now when they have the access to the data and they understand what they're supposed to look for, at that moment, they're able to say, okay, this property is great. All the data shows that this property is great, and they will provide a lot of revenue in the future, and the price will increase. Appreciate things. And I'm willing to really bet that I'm willing to pay this price for this property because the data shows that it's worth investing in that property. So that is important, but understanding of the data is even more important. And of course, that's the key. And I think that's where sometimes even community comes in place, where people who are investors and they gather in a community and start asking questions. Okay, what is important? And really educating itself and really find a way how really educate yourself. And I mean, there's a lot of ways to educate. You go to seminars, read books, learn from other people. But I think that this will be the key, understanding how to educate on the data that you already never had the data before, but now you finally have it. So how you educate yourself on that data that is revealed to you.
Right. Well, that's what data structuring would be. We can have millions of data points about the asset, but it's unstructured. It's
Yeah.
in formats that we could read but not make sense of. So then structuring that and being able to have the assistance of AI to interpret that and maybe even ask it, what questions should I be asking about this data? I think it's super helpful for non-technical people, whether
Yeah.
it is investors or even just different types of stakeholders, because you could have uh, an architect that doesn't fully understand something about a field that he or she is not in, and to be able to ask a question, what are the ramifications of this being designed or engineered in a certain way? Or
Yeah.
if I design this, is it going to have objections, from the county, from a municipality? Is there anything in there are thousands of pages of rules and regulations that say that I can't design it in this way? Because
Yeah.
you would need the expertise to be an attorney at that point and say, oh no, this is not correct. You need to redesign, or someone familiar with law or translating that, civil, whatever it might be, and understanding different fields where maybe technical isn't the right word, just breaking down the barrier caused by inherently specialization. Like you have to be really good at something. You have to be an expert in finance to get into these deals. No, you don't. Or you have to be equipped with the best designers, interior and exterior architects to become a real estate developer. No, you don't. You have this wealth of knowledge accessible to you now.
Yeah. I love what you said because that means that you will not need to really. You have a massive access to the data, but you don't need to do anything in the data because you can get that structured information. That means that the most important part is being able to use the tools, right tools, how to get the right knowledge and wisdom out of that data. And it's very powerful. So it means people who will understand how to use the proper tools, and maybe we have provided those tools, AI tools, that you're able to ask some kind of questions like ChatGPT, okay, what is great about this deal?
Mm-hmm.
What are the benefits? What are the risks in this potential deal? And it could be provide all the risks, all the benefits. And then, okay, this is based on AI. It says that those are the benefits, those are risks. This is, I'm willing to make a bet that I'm willing to invest in this deal because even AI says that there's a great investment or is a great upside, but there is potential risk and downside for different things because, of course, there are different properties have different things going on, but just having that additional tool, I think is very, very powerful.
So just sort of a lighthearted question on that. If we're taking financial advice from AI and it could be wrong, who gets in trouble? Do you think someone should get in trouble? Or does this become a gray area where artificial intelligence is giving advice and it can't be held accountable?
Yeah, that's where I don't think that AI should go give any advice. I think
But
they
what
should.
if but what if it's right? Right? Because a human could be wrong too. So you could say, well, humans give bad advice, so humans shouldn't give advice.
Yeah, that's what it is. Like I think that the most important part is just really giving information based on the property, but you can start to get the feel what AI is telling you. Because if there's like 10 things that is like so beneficial and there's only a couple of small risks, of course you can say, okay, that's most likely will be a great investment. I think you're not supposed to say that, okay, this is what you really need to invest because so AI potentially could not look into all your alternative investments, all the other deals that you're looking at. Unless you put all the opportunity you have available, all the properties that you have available right now, let's say choose one property that you should invest based on those 10 properties. At that moment, maybe he can give you a proper advice. Other than that, on that one property is a great investment compared to what?
Right. Context.
Yeah.
Yeah. So to change from business and AI, I want to get your thoughts on entrepreneurship, which is, something that is near and dear to both of us.
Yeah.
you've offered me a lot of great advice, and sometimes it just comes out in these conversations. Oh, this reminds me of a quote from a book, or a certain thought leader brought this up. If you were to pick a couple points from talking to entrepreneurs, going to events, and hearing successful people talk about their struggles, what's something that people need to know if they're going to go out, take risks, be responsible for something, and build something? What do you think they need to know?
Yeah, as you said, there are so many people in my mind that about success. I probably listen thousands of hours on really developing yourself, improving yourself, and what is important. And I think that the biggest thing about success is not how much you know, is really how well you control yourself. And that's where the words emotion regulation comes in place. How well you regulate, how well you execute when you feel not okay. I think that is one of the keys to success, because everyone could make good decisions when they feel good.
Mm-hmm.
How well you do execute when you don't feel good? Because even when I was doing judo, and my coach, I will never forget. In one season, I remember I was fifth in my country, and I said that, like, do you want to succeed this year? Do you want to really go and be third, second, and first? And I said, yeah, I want. So that means that you need to work extra hard during days when you don't feel like doing things, because those are the days when you're able to have a hedge against others. During the great days, you will do amazing, and everyone is doing amazing during great days. If you want to get an edge compared to other people, you need to do great things during toughest days. And I think that's exactly in the business as well, in entrepreneurship. So how you get an edge in startups, how you get an edge in business, you're doing great things when you don't feel like doing things. And when you understand that your best days are the worst days, I think that's where the success starts to come in much, much faster.
Your best days are your worst days.
Yeah.
I like that. It's an oxymoron. I guess just break that down for me one more time. So your best days are your worst days.
Yeah, because that is where the worst days are the moments when you really execute on yourself. You develop your character, you go through setbacks, you build the company. That means that there's so many things that will be developed through those days. You move forward, even though that you don't feel like doing things. So it means even inching is better than one of my favorite quotes. One of my favorite quotes of all is that if you are not able to fly, then run. If not able to run, then walk. If you not able to walk, then just crawl. But just keep moving forward. I remember exactly the words, but just keep moving forward.
Mm-hmm.
Because it's much easier to move from 1 to 20 than from 0 to 1. It's much easier to move from 1 to 20 than from 0 to 1. And that's why where people have worse days, what do? They slow down, they quit, and then they really start when they feel good again. And moving from 0 to 1 is very, very difficult. But when you're inching forward, you're always on that one. You're always moving. So when you actually move from that worst day to better day, now you move from 1 to 20 very, very fast. That's where people say like overnight success. But I think that that's not overnight success, because you kept moving forward every single day. So your worst day is a moment when you actually persevere, and majority of people will not persevere. 90% people quit. Even I like what Steve Jobs said. You need to love what you do. Otherwise, all rational people will quit. And I truly believe that. Like, you need to have such a powerful anchor that even the worst days, it's still meaningful enough for you to keep moving forward. So every single person needs to understand and ask ourselves, is this meaningful enough for me to have that as an anchor, that even when I feel that I want to quit, I will still keep doing the right thing towards my future. Future of the business, future of my family, future of myself. There's so many different features. But again, that this is the worst days could be the best days when you choose to.
So if startups and entrepreneurship, I mean, it's going to push people to their limits and drag them through hard times.
Yeah.
More than most other responsibilities or careers or things that could happen in your life. Now, of course, there's a lot of bad things that can happen to people, death, illness, and financial struggles, and or just things going on in the world. Actually, I kind of want to change my question and take this in a different direction. With all of these things that are already happening to us, to become an entrepreneur is just another layer of pain, almost. Do you still think that people should consider being an entrepreneur for the trials to see if they can grow from it? Do you think that that's a reasonable consideration? Why should people consider entrepreneurship?
I lost you for a second.
Why should people consider entrepreneurship? Given the challenge of it and all the other things that they might have going on in life, why add another struggle?
Yeah, this is a powerful question, and I think that everyone needs to answer that question by themselves. But for me, when I think about really entrepreneurship and really pursuing some things, it comes from understanding that I better fight for something meaningful than really keep it status quo. Like I always said that if there will be a 0.01 chance to succeed, I will still fight for that 0.1 chance. Because it's so meaningful for me to really pursue the things that I want. I have that such a strong why that entrepreneurship will lead to where I want to go, that it doesn't matter how little chance it is. And I think that everyone needs to understand that, like, what is my goal? Do you want to be in full control of your destiny? Because I don't think that jobs are bad per se, like in a corporate life. I think that is an amazing career. Because a lot of people achieve their true success. But I think that's why I pursue entrepreneurship and why I do coaching as much as I do. Without I'm not a paid coach or anything, but I really mentor quite a few people on entrepreneurship. Is that I was lost when I was 25 in corporate life. Even though I was succeeding, but in personal life I was failing. And no one saw that I'm failing, because I thought that I was supposed to feel good about where I am. Because no one in my surroundings was an entrepreneur. All of them was employees. All of them was working in corporate life. And I didn't have a picture of how entrepreneurship actually looks like. Till all to 25, I never have anyone around me that was an entrepreneur. And because I never had anyone around me who was an entrepreneur, of course, how was I supposed to understand what entrepreneurs do, how they live, how they think? Only when I started to connect with entrepreneurs, I started to understand there is a different way of thinking. Because if you want to become an entrepreneur, that means you need to be okay, almost like dying inside. Because the values of entrepreneur and values of employee are totally different. Because sometimes for entrepreneur, you need to work 100 hours and not see any results. And when you get used to work 100 hours and get rewarded by your salary, sometimes it could be a big challenge to change that mindset that the 100 hours could lead no results whatsoever.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that is very hard, especially if you've been longer working in corporate life. Sometimes that transition will be difficult. I think that's why so many businesses fail. I always said that business fail not because of business fail. Business fail because the person who runs the business fails. Because a lot of times, business owners who are corporate and they move to business, they transition with the same employee mindset to run a business. And it will never happen. It will never happen. And that's why people who never been an employee sometimes have an edge compared to corporate, because they don't have that mindset that 100 hours will lead to some kind of certain salary or some kind of result. No. Employees think differently than entrepreneurs. I think that's the key part. That if you really want to become an entrepreneur, you will need to be okay to really shed that old skin with character, with the ways what you develop, because skill sets are different as well. Employees a lot of times need to focus on technical skills. It depends on the position, of course, but in general, technical skills are more valued than soft skills. In entrepreneurship, soft skills are much more valued than technical skills because so many people, even Henry Ford said that, like when you ask a question, I will find the person who will answer the question. I don't need to know all the things. I need to be okay to manage and understand who knows the answer. And I think that's the key part of entrepreneurship, being such a good networker and connect with people, understand what they know, what are their strengths, and really be being able to really connect with people much more important than connect with tools as an employee.
All good stuff. Really, really good stuff. Um, and it resonates with me, especially being able to commit to something. It might seem irrational. I get asked because I'm still very active in the markets as side income, and you lose a lot of money. I have for years, because you got to learn the lessons the hard way. This is how you regulate emotions in a position. This is how you read the charts. And I mean, I've had people say, it seems like such a gamble. And if you lose money, why would you want to do this? Why would you commit to it? Why would you? But it's the same thing with the startup as well. I haven't been paid, never been paid. I've never made more than $8 an hour on one job I had in high school. Right. So I've never seen $80,000 salary. I've never seen financial security or comfort. And so I don't know any different, and so I can work on a startup or multiple startups for 4.5, 5 years, where there's insecurity, it's unstable, it's uncomfortable. There's no luxury to it. There's nothing to take pride in except the fact that I'm putting in 10,000 hours a year to work on myself, work on the company, to build products, to scrap those products when they're not wanted, and to build another product. To do that, I think it would drive 99.99% of people insane. And sometimes I'm almost in that category. I almost cross the threshold where I lose my mind. But to use your Steve Jobs reference, I'm equally as passionate about this stuff and building a company, and I really believe in the vision that we've proposed. I never gave up on it, and that's brought us pretty far, all things considered, and we've gotten to see the market change. For now, this idea doesn't seem so crazy, and people, every call I get on, any part of the world I go to, have conversations, like we're having here, especially in the beginning, talking about data. Hey, finding data, using data. People are like, oh, that makes sense. You really have something to say, and yeah, just takes years of struggle. And then you get that epiphany, that aha moment, that little breakthrough, that first traction where you finally have a footing. And then the rest is history. That 0 to 1, right? You could spend 10 years getting 0 to 1, and then 1 year going from 2 to 20 or 100. It's incredible.
Even looking into example of Elon Musk, look into his net worth over 20 years, and then after that's 1 year, I don't remember which year it was, that his net worth just skyrocketed. Because he was working all the time. He was working always those 18 hours a day for years after years after years after years. His revenue was on about 1 billion for probably 10, 20, 15 years. I think that was about 1 billion. It never increased. Of course, that's 1 billion, a lot of money already, but he was still working an enormous amount of time. And at what point he just went to 200 billion in a couple of years. I think that's what it is. Sometimes from 0 to 1 billion, it took him 20 years. And after that, he reached 200 billion in a couple of years. And I truly believe that that compound effect is in effect.
Yes, the compound effect, absolutely. Exponential growth. Well, as a closing note, as we come up as an hour here, just a personal question for you. What are you most proud of so far? Uh, you know, what would you want to be remembered for? And looking at the rest of the, life ahead of you, what would you want to be remembered for that you
I think
haven't
that
done yet?
the biggest thing that I want to be remembered for is that, and of course I always change a little bit. I always adjust the thing that I'm working on, because I always want to really have that intentional living, really have that in front of me, that what I'm seeking. But the biggest thing that I want to really be remembered, that I really inspire people to take action, inspire to really change, inspire to really see different light in what they're doing and what they could do, inspire people to really challenge their beliefs and say, like, this is not what I'm supposed to do. There's more in me than that I'm doing right now. And I think that that's one of the biggest lessons that I learned, that when I came to the United States, probably like 2017, barely was speaking English at that moment still. And I was living with one guy from New York, and he had a very thick accent in English for me back then. And we were not able to communicate very well, because my accent was very thick, my English was very, very poor, and it was very hard to understand each other. And I was living with him for 3 months. And I'll never forget that when I was leaving him and I'm moving back to Canada, he said to me one thing that I will never forget. And he said that after living with you with 3 months, you changed my life, because I stopped drinking, I stopped smoking, I started exercising, I started reading books. And he said that I changed his life. But to be honest, he changed my life. Because when I remember, I still have a goosebumps, because I realized that by living a life in a good way, in the right way, you will inspire a lot of people. And I chose to live my life in a way that people could be inspired by. So that means that I keep reading books. I keep developing my health. I keep developing my mindset. I still developing resilience. I develop the things that really matters in life. And I hope that people will see that. People will be inspired by that and really change their lives in the better. Because I think that it's better to show how to do things than tell what you need to do. And that's what I really want to be remembered for, that I inspire people to take action, not I told them to take action.
Well, that's awesome. You deserve a leadership role just for that, because you embody the change that you want to see. And I think in a good elevated position, lots and lots of people can be influenced by you, and, to take action in their lives, right? And I think that's more than anyone can ask for, to leave a positive impact on thousands of people.
Agree, 100%.
Well, awesome. I mean, this has been a good conversation on innovation and mentality, growth, entrepreneurship, and I think it's all very tightly related. You can't talk about creating new things without talking about the creativity that has to live in a person, in order to do that, which is thinking outside of the box, which is taking risks.
Yeah.
And you only take risks if there's a positive upside, a reward. So then it's, what do you value in a reward? What are you seeking? And if you're seeking something, why is it missing in your current life, right? So it's all these dots that connect. And I think that you did a good job, explaining it and pulling from your personal life to demonstrate that. And hopefully I do that as well. I think you summed up, my entrepreneurial journey pretty well. So
yeah,
it's good to talk to you, good to reflect on these things, and looking forward to future episodes. We gotta get you more leadership conversations, because I think there's a lot of people in the startup world, in the real estate world, in prop tech that can be inspired by you.
Awesome. Thank you.
All right, Benas. Take care.
Talk soon.